Again, welcome everybody. I hope you didn't have any trouble getting here this morning. I know traffic can be bad on the way up here. There's a couple of things that we want to accomplish today, and we have the right people here to help answer your questions about JE OPETS, and we want to try to get as many of those out of the way as we can. For the ones that we can't answer here, we'll make sure that we get those posted to the website. I know a lot of you have been involved with this from the very beginning, so I believe that you would have also seen the first industry day that we did when we talked about the acquisition domain and the logistics and medical domain that were combined together. And so we've already talked about that. We're just going to give you an update on where we are with those, and then we're going to talk primarily about the last three pieces, which is your B&A, your IT, and your engineering and technical. And so we'll give you that full spectrum. And one of the reasons I've already gotten questions from several of you in the audience about why did things push to the right, and so I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. So our original intent for OPETS was to have JE OPETS in place before the period of performance ran out on existing task orders for acquisition as well as the medical and logistics domain. However, as we're getting things in place, it looked like there was a potential that we might have a gap in performance, and we couldn't have that. And so we talked about the best way to approach that, and the direction that we got was to do a recompete of those OPETS domains. And so what that did is basically added a year of performance. So now it aligns with where in February where the other domains were. So we ought to have people in seats all at the same time in February of 19. Rather than having the first set in February of 18 followed by the ones in 19. And so that's why there was a change, and we're going to talk more about that, those domains as we give you the update. But basically that was the reason behind why we originally planned to do the first two domains a little earlier than what we're going to right now. So, okay, are there any questions for me in particular? Okay, well, let's get this show started. I do want you to know that I'm always available. If you have questions, I'm your interface, with the JPO when it comes to these omnibus contract vehicles. Do not be afraid or hesitate to call me if you have a question. That's what we're there for. We're there to help you get your questions answered. There'll be some things. Now, when you talk about if you ask me specific questions about the RFP or something like that, those you need to go through the KO for. But if it's general questions about timing and approaches and those kind of things, you can certainly come to me in my office and we can answer those for you. So, turn it over to you, John.
Good morning. I'm John Gorell. First of all, I wanted to go through the admin portion of this, if I can, real quickly. There are two exit doors, one over there, one over there. Bathrooms are through the main lobby. If you aren't familiar, this used to be the Chem D-Mill training facility, for those of you who go back a few years when Chem D-Mill was around. And I do go back a few years with them. I work for Al in the JOMO office, and I'm kind of the architect for J-Class, JE RDAP, and now JE OPETS. I'd like to introduce a couple folks to you so that you are familiar with them. First of all, Brian Murphy. Brian, if you'd stand up. Brian's the contracting officer for JE OPETS. Steve Smith, he's the contract analyst and the person who really does the work, quite honestly, for the Natick contracting organization up in Natick. Brenda O'Brien. Brenda is going to be the COR. She is the COR for the OPETS contract. She will also be the COR for the JE OPETS contracts when they are let. So you now know the prime players to this whole thing. Okay, as Al said, I just want to expand just a little bit more. You know, when we were trying to do OPETS and get to the February 18th timeframe, we literally couldn't give you enough time when we wanted to have 30 days after the award of task orders to get you to have people in place. We had to have some 30 days in advance for our evaluation of your proposals, which was another 30 days. That was the task orders. And before that even happened, we had the IDIQs before that. So we had 30 days of evaluation and 30 days of your doing preparation for the RFP on that. And so when you added it all up, we probably should have been able to start 2012. Something like that, I don't know. But anyway, so what, as Al indicated, we're going to be targeting for people in seats February 19 of 2019. And you're going to see that in just a moment. This is recorded. Thank you, sir. This is being recorded, and I am told that the recording will be available. If you go to FedBiz Ops, there should be a link there that then takes you to the Avatar, which is our government type of IT type support. Scott Schenkel back there in the back. He will have it probably online within 30 seconds after the end of this briefing, I'm told. He's that good, trust me. He is that good, his team is. So thank you very much. Okay, so the briefing. First slide. Okay, so as I indicated, JE OPETS is the follow-on to OPETS, and it's going to consist literally of 3 contracts. Now you may remember that OPETS really consisted of 6 contracts. There's one for each one of the domains, and you had to compete for each one of the domains that you had. You had acquisition, logistics, medical, B&A, business and analytics, IT, and engineering and technical. And in order to be successful, you had to compete in each one of those. Well, because of the direction by the park, we kind of modified that. Yes, you will have to compete in 3 contracts now. And they would be acquisition, which you see is 100% small business set aside. By the way, these slides will be available, so online as well. Logistics and medical, which will be full and open competition. And the one that we want to focus on today is the BEI, or the business, engineering, and IT. Let's follow on to OPETS. Okay, any questions? Next slide. All right, ceiling for each one of these contracts is $249 million. Each one of them. So there's 3 times 249. The period of performance, we're going to have a 6-year period of performance, base period of performance, with task orders which may go for up to 12 months beyond the end of the ordering period. That allows us then, if we award the contracts in, say, June of next year, summertime, even though the task orders won't start till February of the year following, you would still have time then to transition to whatever Al and company wants to do beyond that as the JOMA organization. NAICS codes, 541330, engineering services. I believe the standard still is $38.5 million for small business. And remember, that's a running average 3 years in advance of the contract. And once you are an IDIQ holder and you have been determined to be a small business company, you would be small business for the duration of that contract. So if you're small business at the start, you're small business at throughout the entire program. We will be conducting operations on and off. I've listed the majority, I think, of all of the locations. So when you start looking at proposing to this, you really need to be aware of where you will have to be doing recruiting and providing personnel support to the JE OPETS contract, because it's not just here at Aberdeen or Stafford or Fort Detrick. It's a lot of places. We have folks that support us at the JPEO, Kim Biodefense. To include, if you see there, Republic of Korea. We do have folks over there as well. Next slide. So, we wanted to apply some of the lessons learned that we had from OPETS going to JE OPETS. First of all, under OPETS by design, 6 separate contracts. We ended up with about 399, is that about right, Steve? People? 399 rough order FTEs that were provided under OPETS. Those 399 resulted in about 375 task orders. That is a huge, unbelievable administrative burden. We're going to try and reduce that, where a task order may have multiple people, like 30 or so folk on it, and we will arrange that, and I'm going to let Brian talk to that a lot more as to the methodology of how we would go up or down within a task order to add people if we needed to, or subtract people if we needed to, as the JPMs evolve through their acquisition processes. I talked about task orders, so we're going to use, we'll have full and open competition, as I said, on BEI and L&M, but it will be 100% small business on the acquisition, as it was under the OPETS contract. No difference there. We will use FAR Part 16, fair opportunity, to award task orders. That's going to make it very quick. I would anticipate very quick to go from task order proposal to award. It could be overnight, depending on how awake Brian is. It could be, that's right. So hopefully it will be very quick that we go from here's a task order, there's the award, very quick. Okay? We did, as I said, we wanted to reduce the number of task orders because that just becomes a burden not only to the contracting team, oh my gosh, Steve, but it also became a burden for our GFEBs, which is our financial and accounting system as well, as to how we were doing that. We will allow the flexibility, you've seen there, to go up and down within a task order. That's because the programs change within the JPEO. They're not stagnant, and they need different people as they go through the acquisition process. Today you need an engineer, tomorrow you need a logistician within the JPM's organization. So we need to be able to do that. We're also going to increase it up above the level 4, which was the old ceiling level for labor levels. And the labor categories that we had under OPETS are pretty darn much within about 98%, I think, about the same for JE OPETS as they were there for OPETS as they will be for JE OPETS. But we found that we needed on occasion to go above what was a GS15 mid-grade, I believe, which was level 4 at that time. So when the RFP comes out, you will see that we will try and identify where maybe we have a potential to go above that if we need to. But at least we wanted to have that ability to go above level 4. Next slide. All right, this is just a model for you to kind of size and look at your expectations. You'll see here that under BEI, just like the other two, it's about 135 to 140 FTEs for each one of these contracts. The number of labor categories, it may change, but you've got 20 here, 14 there, and the L&M, and you've got 9 under the acquisition labor categories. Again, the FTEs are about 140 each. So it's about a third for each one of those is what it amounted to. And that was by Park design and by our design, quite honestly. Now, the number of task orders that you see underneath, 1 to N, I've just said, that's because we anticipate that you may see 2 or 3 task orders rather than 100 task orders in the future. Okay? Again, $249 million ceiling on each one of them. Separate contracts. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to break them out by the select group, labor categories. I anticipate that under, let's say, JE OPETS, LM, A, or BEI, that we might have 2 or 3 task orders which would be focused, and we'll probably focus these task orders so they're not mixed, so you don't have business and analytics mixed up with a task order coming down for engineering services. But that task order for business would probably have 30 or 40 folk on it, FTEs, and it will have capability to go up or down, expand at the task orders through options and cleanse or whatever the contracting officer wants to create that. And that's not my area of expertise. But that just gives you kind of an idea that you would see task orders after you win an IDIQ that may have, requirement of 15 to 30 people on a single task order, rather than having a single task order for a single person. We're not going to do that again. Okay. Schedule. Next slide. So, as I said, we previously were going to have JE OPETS A, acquisition, and JE OPETS LM, logistics and medical, for March 2017 and the like. And now we're going to have them in 2018, about the same time frame. So what you're going to see is probably in the early spring, you're going to see the first RFP coming out. Now, I anticipate that we will have a draft RFP for BEI. We've already had one for A and L&M. We would anticipate one very early spring, January timeframe, I think, is probably when you'll see a draft RFP coming out for the business, engineering, and IT. Then you're going to see the actual RFPs come out early in the year 2018, fully recognizing that the task orders that follow on will not require people in seats until February of 19. We understand that, but in order to get these things so that we have time to go through the process and evaluate and get you awarded an IDIQ, and then we go out on task orders such that we would back that off and give you time to work through the process of identifying the folks and also getting them vetted, their CAC cards and whatever else you need to do, and then getting them into the seat by 19 February of 2019. That's the target. Okay. So we had an industry day previously conducted. The slides are available through the FBO for acquisition and logistics medical. It was in 28 June. And today, this is what we're doing today, is the BEI. Next slide. As I indicated, we want to give you a 30-day response to our RFPs, whether it be the IDIQ. Now, the task order may be 15 to 30 days, depending. So it'll be a little bit shorter because you already won an IDIQ. Now, how many IDIQs are we going to award? Probably about 3 per task order. I'm sorry, per contract. So we'd have 3 on L&M, 3 on A, and 3 on BEI. And again, Al, he can decide that he wants to up that, down that, depending on what his needs are within the world of providing JE OPETS. But that's kind of a notional target. Why? Well, we had 41 contractors that were under OPETS. 24 never got any work. The 12 that did, of those, only 8 really got contract awards. The other 4 were minimum awards. Give me one, I got to give you a minimum award. We need one person, so give us that person. So we had 24 contractors who never got any work. Well, we kind of want to manage your expectations of what we need. And in doing that, we anticipate that under the FAR, we can limit the number of awards that we actually make at the IDIQ level. Now, that may change, may go up a few, may go down a few. Well, don't think it'll go down a few, but it's kind of notionally, you can think about 3 per contract of awards. Okay, as I said, the releases are going to come out probably early spring for the RFPs, and I would anticipate that we'll do A, then L&M, then BEI. I got a question back there from Mr. Turville. Well, okay, and again, it's subject to change, Rick, but I think what we would probably do is do A first, acquisition, which is 100% small business set aside, then L&M, then BEI. If we do the release of the RFP in, let's say, February, March, and Al would like to have the release of the RFP immediately following the recompete completed for the current OPETS. So you're going to see an RFP from one of them fairly quick, February, March. Then within probably 30 to 60 days, you're going to see the next one. And then within 30 to 60 days, you're going to see the next one. Okay?
It just allows us to be much more productive in the way that we plan.
Perfect. And I understand that, and that's exactly what our intention was in doing it. It was to stagger it not only for you, but for us as well, because, you know, we got to do the evaluations and all of that. We've got an evaluation team set up so we can turn them around as fast as we can. Now, again, remember that the task orders may go out, but they would be, I don't want to say short of award, but it would be that we would delay the actual execution, implementation of the task order, backing it up from the 19 February of 2019 is when we need people in the seats. So you can just kind of back that up a little bit. Okay, give you 30 days to get people in, give you some time to evaluate the task order, give you 30 days to, you know, prep for the task order, give so many days to get the RFP, the task order on the street for evaluation. So it's going to be, you know, 60 to 90 days in advance of the actual execution of the task order after they've got the IDIQs awarded. Okay? All right. Next slide. Talked about. Okay, this is just a reminder for everybody here, just so that you're aware. Acquisitions, 100% small business. L&M, full and open competition. We intend to have BEI, full and open competition. And the NAICS code, you need to go look into SAM and make sure that you've got the right NAICS code if you want to compete. Make sure that you meet the criteria, which is a running average of 3 years prior to it of 38.5 million, and that you are literally in that NAICS code listing. If you're not, we can't help you. That's up to you. It's in SAM. Questions for me? I paid everybody off. Sir.
Actually, 3 questions. Since the IDIQ has planning on having a 6-year period of performance, for these initial task orders, what kind of period of performance are you expecting for those? Is that are you looking at a 3 or 4 year, or
1 year? They have to be. Task orders are 1 year at a time with options. We can't get around.
That's what. Yeah, I know. Understand 1 year from a funding perspective, but you would look for the period of performance for the initial task orders. What would you expect?
Yeah, I'd expect it to be 3 years, a 1 year at award, and then 2 years of options.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not going to be a 6-year task order.
Okay.
Those tasks will be recompeted.
But it has to be a 1 year.
No. Yeah, understood the 1 year initial. Are you looking at resumes at the IDIQ level? You touched on it briefly earlier in the slide, but in terms of rates being established, but are you expecting a book of resumes, or is it going to be more the rates that were indicated in the slides?
You want to answer that?
So I don't think that's been fully decided, but I don't think the resumes at the IDIQ level are as important as they are at the task order level. So that's sort of a general statement that I can make about that.
Okay.
But again, that'll be when we see the RFP. It'll be clear, but we don't know exactly at this point if we're going to do them at the IDIQ or not.
Okay.
And even if we did, it would be one for multiple positions.
Right, and the real work obviously takes place under the task order,
Right.
not under the IDIQ.
Okay.
You have a third question?
Yeah. One third question. Well, I lost it.
Want to hand that up?
That was my favorite question.
Lady in front of you there.
I've got the mic behind you here.
There's a mic
Oh,
right
I
behind
need a mic. Okay, I've got a pretty loud voice, so I don't know. Hi, I'm Stephanie Brody. I'm a consultant with a company by the name of Premier Management, and we are a specialist in the area of OPETS A, and we're also a small business under that particular NAICS code. So what I wanted to know, though, is if we're planning on bidding A, if we wanted to hop on a team for any of the others, would there be a conflict of interest? No. Okay.
Between different OPETS contracts?
Yes.
No, I don't see that.
Okay.
Let me not leave that as my final statement, because under the PEO, there's a lot of other contracts. There's RDAP, there's JE class. There's a lot of opportunity for there to be conflicts of interest here. Okay, but amongst the IDIQs, between the different breakdowns that we have, I don't see that.
So there could possibly be then a OCI at the task order level. Is that what I'm hearing?
There could very well be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I apologize for
But it would be with other contracts, not
Got it.
amongst our contract for OPETS.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for being late, and if I missed some of these, again, I apologize. It took me 45 minutes to get in the gate. It was kind of a surprise. The other question has to do with, are you going to make available the sign-in sheet to all of us here today?
So we don't intend to do that. What we do have on the website is a networking opportunity. So you
saw
can put
that.
your name and contact information on there and check off that you would like to be part of that.
Okay.
And we think that was a better way to go about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
We will open it up at the end for more questions. So
You talked about the potential to be flexible with staffing levels within the task order. From an expectations management perspective, does that mean that once those 2 to 3 initial task orders would be awarded in each of the 3 contracts, that you would, unless there were a significant requirement for additional FTEs, you would likely surge within each of the domains as opposed to an additional task order opportunity?
So the answer is it depends. So I gave you the classic contracting officer answer there, because it's a scope question. So we do intend to try to build some flexibility into the task orders, primarily through options. So we do know, we have some numbers, we have some experience as to what we anticipate the growth to be within that 3-year period. If there's no growth, we don't have to worry about it. But we do hope to have some options on there that we can exercise. If it's beyond that, it's probably out of scope. And again, I can't make the determination until we're actually in this. And we would have to compete those requirements under fair opportunity. Right, yeah. If the levels change, if the numbers change, there's a lot of things that we're probably going to end up having to compete again under fair opportunity. There's only so much we can build into those task orders.
I just want to ask a question that I always get asked, and that is, can these contract vehicles be used for by other organizations other than the JPEO?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we do anticipate other organizations will use these contracts.
As long as it's within the scope of the OPETS.
And they do it now under OPETS too. So we'll open it up again at the end after Steve and I talk, and we can have some more questions there. We do appreciate the questions, so thank you.
Okay. You guys are up? Yep. Let me step down.
Good morning. Just a quick note to follow on something that Brian said. If you go on the web page and you register for the networking list and you don't see anything happen in a few days, send me an email, because I'm the person that approves those. So send me an email and I'll take care of it. So on our opening slide here, we've got the solicitation numbers. Now, we wanted to show those up front because those are different from what we briefed at the last industry day. Those had fiscal year 17 numbers. So if you go up on FedBiz Ops and you're searching for these solicitations, these are the numbers that you will use. Next slide. Did anybody need a minute to copy those down? Can you go back, Scott? Yeah, they'll be available. No, actually, they're out of order. R001 is acquisition, 0002 is log med, and 0008 is BEI. Anyone need more time? Good? All right, next slide. The agenda. All right, next slide. We've already done introductions. Thank you, John. I am Steve. This is Brian. This is pretty much a standard disclaimer. No guarantees as a result of anything we're talking about here today. Bottom bullet, any cost is at your own expense so far. Good. Next slide. All right, I think John might have briefed this already. 3 awards under each IDIQ. Guaranteed minimum is different this time. I think OPETS, it was 2,500, and with JE OPETS, 1,000. And the final bullet John briefed already as well. Next slide. Okay, so again, I was talking about how to look up the information. FedBiz Ops and the web page are going to be your primary sources for getting the draft RFPs. So that's an important website to make sure you get down. And you can write it down now, or it'll be available on the website. As far as yes, that's available on FBO, that web URL. We only had 2 questions on the page prior to today. One of them, somebody asked for the June 28th slides, which I provided an answer to, and the other one, John, you were going to send off? To, yeah.
We had a question as to whether or not the IT would include cybersecurity requirements, somebody who had, I assume, had that capability, and also a risk management format. Sent off the question to our headquarters here as well as our JPM for IT out in San Diego. Have not received a response back. As soon as we do, we'll get it on up to you and get it posted.
Okay, and then our final bullet there, Avatar is working on this bidders library. Scott, are we close to being done on that? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Next slide.
Okay, so I'll take it over from Steve. I think y'all understand who our customers are here. It's JPEO folks that need this support. We're going to create these contracts, and they're going to be a little bit different from what we've done before, in that some of the things that John talked about, that we're going to try to consolidate the task orders and make them more manageable. It was unwieldy for us on the contracting side for sure. So we are going to do some of that. So it's going to be full and open competition. This is a trade-off. This is not LPTA. I think you all understand that. We need qualified people for this. We're not just necessarily looking for the lowest cost. So we're going to, and we do have a change from what we spoke about earlier in the last industry day, where we had an IDIQ with an option period. At this point, we don't need to go that route. These are going to be 6-year contracts. Next slide. So I'm going to go back to the disclaimer real quick and say that this is what we anticipate it to be right now. This can change, and again, until you see that RFP on the street, that's when the official document that you're going to have to respond to. So there might be some tweaking of this, but right now this is what we anticipate the evaluation factors to be for actually all 3 of the IDIQs. We do have at this point past performance most important. We recognize that's a little bit different from some of the other things you might have seen over the years, but we think it's important enough to us that we need, at this point, are going to have it as the top priority for award. Okay, go ahead. So that's all the fun stuff. Now I have to talk about the dry stuff, but that's okay. That's my job. That's where I get the the big bucks, right? As I mentioned before in the earlier question, with all these contracts that the JPEO has, and even outside of that, there's real opportunities here for there to be conflicts of interest. We've got folks that are supporting the government, people in seats, and creating contracts and creating requirements. So it's really, we're asking you to self-police and recognize that these are real risks that we face as an organization. And we think that you need to be part of that solution and part of identifying what these problems are, and we can deal with them. We can have you create OCI mitigation plans, that sort of thing that we can work through, and we can approve, and we can do, there's things that we can do to make sure that these requirements are still computed properly, and there's no appearance of conflict. Next. Again, this is just to highlight that these are the kind of things that we're contracting for under JE OPETS, and these are identified in the FAR as the highest risk for OCIs. So I guess more than anything, I just need to foot stomp that for you. Okay. Again, I'm not going to read this for you, but again, this is the same point that these are the tasks that we're hiring. Be aware of that, and know with RDAP out there now, JE class, we need you to be very cognizant of what the folks are doing. Next. I'll let you review these at your leisure when it's posted online. So go ahead, this is. The last part, system procurement integrity. I'll go ahead and read this because I feel like it and I like it. So government business shall be conducted in a manner above reproach with complete impartiality and preferential treatment to none. So we are going to compete these full and open or small business set aside. We're going to evaluate them robustly, and we've got a big team ready to go. We're going to stagger them so that we have experience with these, and we're going to award them to those that give us the best value to the government. So that's my speech on procurement integrity. If you've got any concerns about this, if you've got things that maybe don't seem right or you've got questions about, you can ask for information from an ethics attorney through some folks that may be trying to do business here with you, and go ahead and follow it. It's there's not at this point with our contracts, we don't feel a strong risk here, but I just wanted to point it out to you. And I'm here to help. Steve Rafael's here to help. The other contracting officers that are under JPEO are here to help. So if you have any concerns, give us a call. We'll talk it through. So at this point, I can open up the questions. There's a second mic going around.
This is really quick, and again, it may be one that you've already answered, but is there a small business specialist affiliated with this procurement?
There is Stacy Gaddis. Yep, and her boss is Andrea Armstrong. They're out of APG. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have any questions you want to ask right now and you want to submit them on the 3x5 cards that we gave you, I thought what we'd do is take about a 15-minute break. You can write down those questions that you have, and we'll take a look at them, and if we can answer them, we'll try and do that live right now. And of course, then they'll be posted on the FBO website. If not, you know, we can always take questions on going through the contracting officer, but we do have one question down here.
Is it on? Yeah. All right. Good morning. One question and just a concern. You mentioned best value when you were talking about your FAR 3.1011 bit. Are task orders going to be competed on an LPTA or best value criteria?
So good question. We think at this point there'll be trade-off. There could be some that are LPTA. Haven't specifically identified any that are, but I think all the task orders at this point I assume would be trade-off. Yeah, we did leave ourselves that option though.
Since you've already mentioned that past performance is going to be the primary evaluation criteria, as a small business in the acquisition area, there's been one primary company who has been doing the majority of the work in that area over the last 5 years, maybe 6. So what window are you planning on using with respect to past performance citations? Typically is 3 to 5 years. Many of us that have extensive experience providing acquisition support to the JPEO haven't done as much over the last 5 to 6 years because of that exclusion. So are you going to perhaps broaden that a little bit to allow us to cite some of those past performance experience that we have with the personnel that we have on hand?
Good question, fair question. At this point, we're looking at 3 years, and it certainly does not have to be OPET's past performance. I mean, that's not that's nowhere in the criteria.
Well,
Any?
I would just propose you consider that, perhaps expanding that because of the situation.
Expanding it by years?
Yes, because that would allow us then to perhaps provide some citations that are fairly strong that would help a small company such as mine to perhaps distinguish itself, to include JPEO experience. You know, I've got prior JPMs and deputy JPMs on staff, but most of that work is more than 3 years old.
It's a fair comment. We'll take it under consideration.
thank you.
you.
And we have some questions. I think we can probably respond to all but maybe one of these as we go right now. Okay, so I will read it, and read it. It says, at the IDIQ level, will you require resumes with candidate names, or will you just require representative resumes?
So I think we addressed this before. I don't really see it at the IDIQ competition level, the resumes really being a driver, because we sort of know that there's a time lag. There's all sorts of things that can happen. So I don't necessarily see us requiring the resumes. There may be some resumes that we ask for under the IDIQ. I think we've talked about that as a team. But at this point, I just don't see that it really is going to add a lot of value to our evaluations.
Next question is, can we confirm that the company names can be included in proposals for JE OPETS, unlike the approach that was the original OPET solicitation? Yeah. I don't see a problem with that at all. If you want to include your name, yeah, we would say that that's probably going to happen. Next question is, will you allow cross-teaming at the IDIQ and task order levels? Oh, good.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to get the best product. We want to get the best service. If that involves, creating JVs, whatever you think is the best route to get there for us, then that's what's going to meet our requirement. That's what. If that's the best route, then go ahead and do it. And certainly we want robust subcontracting, all sorts of that. I think it's really valuable in a contract like this.
Mentor protege, prime sub, your partners, however you want to do it. Comment made, and we've already kind of answered this, that we would consider the 5 years versus the 3 years with regard to past performance being higher weighted than price. I think as we've indicated, past performance would be higher right now, and then the technical management, and then finally the price. However, as indicated, Brian's going to consider going up to 5 years. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already started to chat about that as being probably a pretty good idea. So I think you'd probably see that change.
Next question is there a possibility that BEI could come out as a small business set-aside as well?
So our market research thus far has not identified enough companies for what we need. So we do anticipate at this point that it'll be full and open.
Next question is, would we provide the contact information for small business specialists for this work? And
So I'll check with them. I gave out the names earlier. I'll check with them and see if it's all right, and if it is, I'll put it under the Q&A section on the website, and you'll have that contact information. But I don't have it at hand, and B, I want to check with them first. I don't see it as being a problem, but again, I don't want to speak out of turn for them.
The next question is, will a small business subcontracting plan be required for an RFP response?
So subcontracting plans are required. We are still approaching a decision on small business participation plan under acquisition. So we are working that through. Small business participation plans will be required under anything that's full and open. So you'll see that under L&M and at this point BEI. But we are still trying to determine if it's required under acquisition.
Okay, that's all the written questions that we had. Are there any other questions that you want to raise, Mr. Turville? Hi there.
One quick question, I guess, because it's BEI all being grouped together, and the the evaluation criteria is past performance. How will you evaluate between the B&A, the engineering, and the IT piece, or are they all equal? Do you need past performance in each?
Past performance is past performance. How you get there and identify what you've done in the past, it's a methodology of how you were looking at how have you done for recruiting, retention, all of the those kinds of things in the past, and then how would you translate that to the future? What were your, did you learn lessons? And you said, well, this is, but I don't think it's not going to be specific to a discipline within the BEI. So past performance is past performance. What have you done? Because this is really, we're looking for you to recruit, retain, hire, etc., vet the best and the best across the entire spectrum. How do you do that? What have you done? What's your experience? Past performance. Any other questions? We got another one.
Can you discuss at all, you talked about the small business participation plan. Yeah, you haven't made your decision yet under the acquisition domain. Can you discuss a little bit, what you're thinking as far as how you'll make your decision, what your considerations are for whether or not to include that in the small business set aside for the acquisition domain?
Yeah, so it's at this point it comes down to an interpretation in the DFARS that we found that we think allows us not to have it as part of the acquisition. But I reached out to small business to get them to confirm that so that I have that. And I have not received that back yet. So that's currently where we're at with that. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that until I get that confirmation.
Nope, great.
Any additional questions? We will be posting the slides. It will have a video or just audio?
It will be the audio with the slides.
Okay. Audio with slides will be posted. Go to FedBiz Ops. There should be a link there. You can get on to the Bidders Library is coming up. Anticipate a draft RFP.
And all the questions from today we will transcribe and put on the website as well. And again, if the easiest way to find the website that I found is if you go to FBO, search for OPETS, within one of those acquisitions under OPETS on FBO has the link in there, so you can cut it and paste it. That's what I found the easiest way to do it. Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Appreciate coming. Looking forward to you submitting proposals.